Scott is a wussy boy. He's a little boy, and he looks like a girl, and he is a sissy boy. Look at all the toys. He's such a weirdo. Oh, what a nerd. I'm not going to like him forever. No, this is one big prank. He's such a little weirdo. Oh, actually, you might have been recording that. I was recording this to then send you a video of it later, but you've been recording it, so you'll actually see that when you scrub through and edit it. Haha. That's great.
Good morning, good evening, g'day. This is Scott Tiller. This is the Gunpla Insider from the Gunpla Network. Tonight we've got with us Joshua Darrah. Yep, you've joined me on Gunpla Insider for the Gunpla Network. Tonight we've got with us special guest Josh Darrah. Before I go on, just a couple of public service announcements from the guys at Robo City. They look after us. I just got my Christmas present today, the PG Strike, straight under the bed. Hopefully it stays there. Canadian Gundam, they also look after us here at Gunpla Network. And Gaplant Communications. They're the host for my VMR. And so let's moving right along. Joshua, how are you this evening, my friend?
I'm very good. It's gotten a bit colder tonight. It's been a bit hot during the day. My new place has a fireplace, and I am very excited. I've never lived in a house with a fireplace. So I just realized after this, I'm going to whack some wood on and get it burning. Leave the windows open so it's cold enough for me to have the fire inside, but I'm so excited for that. So
beautiful.
I'm looking when winter stays for any extra few weeks before summer hits. So yeah,
we got a bit of rain today, didn't we?
Yeah, yep. Oh man, look at us. Couple old guys talking about got a bit of rain, hey? Yeah,
can feel it in me knees.
Yeah, no, we needed it, didn't we? Yeah, no, it's good.
Well, fortunately, my wife loves to mow the lawn, so it doesn't bother me at all. I don't get that.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Jeez.
Yeah. Anyway, Gunpla. I hear you know a thing or two. So let's kick back to when Josh was a wee tacker and before Gunpla. How long ago was before Gunpla, and sort of what were you doing that you think kind of led you towards building models of robots, specifically Gunpla in the end?
Mm-hmm. I've always forever been into art and meticulous kind of detailing of things, little sculptures, like using my Dremel for sculpting like little chisel, some chess pieces or something like that. I've always been into drawing and doing a lot of detailing and stuff like that. And of course, I grew up in the 80s, so Transformers was on TV. Transformers were toys. I only ever had a few of them. And I realized now when I was looking up some toy photos that some of the Transformers I thought were Transformers were actually knockoff ones, like GoBots and stuff like that. So I've always been in Transformers, Optimus Prime and stuff like that, the G1 stuff. And so because of that, I always kind of liked robots, I guess. And it wasn't until I wasn't collecting Transformers or anything, but maybe about 7 or 8 years ago, I started to get the Masterpiece Transformers, which, have you seen those ones? They're like adult.
I think I've seen some of the stuff you've shown, and I think Lance might have mentioned them. They're like the sort of the classic but rad, but like a rerun. Is that correct?
It's like the old school. To say old school Optimus Prime is super bulky, not like the movies. And they call it Masterpiece because it looks really good in the truck mode, and then transformation, the engineering is really kind of witty and smart. And then the robot, he looks like the cartoon. And they cost maybe about $100 to $200. So they're a bit premium, but really nice quality. So I started collecting those. And of course, their hands are kind of just like this, just like joint thumbs and fingers together. Yeah. And, so I was looking, must have been looking on a Transformers forum. I was a part of those, and I started looking to see if I could get different hands. And somebody posted, you can get these posable hands that you put together as like a little model kit. And you can get them from HLJ, I believe, in Japan. So I'm like, I'll get some hands off there. So I looked them up, and they must have had a sale on, and it was just like kind of site-wide. So I ordered the hands, and then they had Gundam kit, $11. And I'm like, what's this? And it was the Gaia Gundam, which is like a seed kit. It's the Gundam that transforms into like a dog sort of thing.
Right.
And it was like $11, and I looked through the photos and I saw the runners. And I used to build military and planes and tanks when I was a kid. So I knew what runners looked like, but I'm used to all gray or like all green or something like that. And then you see the A runner, and it's got the red and the blue and the white and the clear. And that's cool. And then it's like snap fit, no glue. And back when I was a kid, snap fit meant crap fit.
Yeah.
It was snap, and there were like 8 pieces, and you do it in like 20 minutes, and then you're just like, And so I didn't like snap, but I'm like, okay, it's $11, I'll try it. And I got it. And as soon as I got the box, like a week or two later, I set it out on my desk, and I'm like, look at this. And seeing the colors in person was real cool. And I got it from my mate, Matt. And I put it together basically straight away, and everything just how it snapped together. I'm like, holy crap, this is great. Immediately Googling, trying to find a Gundam shop in Brisbane. And I can't remember which shop it was, maybe like Hobby One or something. And I drove there the next day, and then it was my first time deciding which one to get. And I got like, what's this? It's like from seed, and it transforms into like 4 fingers, kind of like this. And it's pink. Aegis.
Oh, yeah.
I got a high grade Aegis.
And
I stayed up like that whole night. I'm like, okay, I'll just build the leg. And then I'm like, oh, but I want to see how the torso goes. Okay, I'll build the torso. And it's like midnight, and then it's 2 a.m. And I'm like, okay, I got to go to work. And from then on out, it was just the fun of snapping it together and seeing what 2 parts. You're like, what is this? And you go that, and you go, that's the knee. And you're like, hey, everybody, it's the knee. And you're like, okay, what are you talking about? So it's
yeah, I know. Those first key moments of like going and picking your own off the shelf, and then your own first snapping, where you just the whole world just disappears. It's kind of special, isn't it? I remember like as a buddy of mine Greg, and he had been doing it for a while. I've been watching a few guys on Instagram, and the same thing. Just decided, hey, what's this? And I went to with Greg to Hobbyrama. I said, I'm ready. I'm going to do this. And he's like, great. And then all your kits are in there, which we'll talk about a bit later. And it was just so good to see so many kits snapped up. Like that, you're lucky. I mean, some people in the world are like you obviously weren't lucky enough to have all these kits to look at, but, walk away with something. And that was the same. I've got a HG unicorn up there somewhere, tucked around up there. And, I started that like 4 o'clock one night. It's like my 3rd kit. And it was 2 a.m. just right through. And it really toasted me, but like the next day I just could not take my eyes off it. I was like blown away. It's unreal.
Yeah. So it was the unicorn, was that your first kit?
No, my first was a like a GP1, GP01 Gundam, one with the massive laser that destroyed the pilot when that big rifle thing. My second kit was MG. It was an MG was my first.
Okay.
And my second was the HG Sinanju, which is like, regardless of stickers and stuff, it's just amazing.
The one was the Sinanju.
Yeah, with like 12 stickers just to do like the cuff thing.
Yeah. See, I remember when I started out in the hobby, I was in the shop and I'm like, oh, this one's $20. Oh, this one's like $32. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go get the $20 one or something. HG Sinanju would have been like $50 or $60.
Probably.
Man, good work. I just would have steered away from it. But now I'm like, I just want to test every kit that comes out. It's so worth the money.
Go here. That's the PG Mark II Titan. That's if you'd asked me 9 months ago, would I spend $250 on a model robot? I'd be like, get out of here. That's ridiculous. You think I'm making money? Yeah. Got that, and now I've got another PG under the bed for Christmas. The PG for me, it just has this way of just snapping together. It's like a huge RG, but with the simplicity of a HG. I don't know how to explain it. Like everything just works and goes together so perfectly. And in the end, it's got, because that one's got things everywhere, and there's so much to play with and fiddle. I was fiddling with it for like an hour this afternoon, just thinking, what am I going to do with this? It's just so nice. Yeah. Okay. Well, look, I think what we might do is we might go to where I think when Josh hit the scene, to be honest, and that was in 2015 when you won the GBC Australia round with your Sinanju.
Yes, crazy.
Who needs paint, huh? Two things. Like, I knew about this. I knew about you before I met you. I think I physically met you, like, face to face at City Hobbies and Toys. You judged. You were there for a comp that got judged. I chatted to you then, and I knew two things about you. And I knew two things about this. He didn't use paint, and the amazing thing about Josh is his scribing and what he takes away from a model. There's a lot of people that will, like, you know, and like there's suits, like someone gets a Jester and just loads it up and it, like, that works. But I think, you know, your principle of, like, there's a lot of Sinanju actually been removed. So I'm just going to flick through these pictures here and you just chat away, whatever you spot, whatever you see, you know, just a little bit about that experience because, how far were you into Gunpla? Obviously, you've got a lot of, you know, artistic history, you know, in your own lifestyle anyway. So it all sort of came together at this one sort of point, you know?
Well, like, there's kind of two things that went into this Sinanju. I had started detailing, I think the first kit that I started to detail was the original Master Grade Hainu, not the Verkar, the original one, a bit more slimmer. And I got some chisels, I think like G-Star or U-Star chisels, and practicing some chiseling, and my chiseling was just an abomination. It was so messy and scratchy. But I kept practicing on it, and then I did a Sword Impulse Master Grade, Sinanju Stein Master Grade, and then a Strike RM Master Grade. And that's for my chiseling and my panel lining. I use a Trumpeter Scriber, which is a hook scriber. That's where I got more and more experience with that. But the reason why the Sinanju, so there's paint on the inner frame and the metallic parts, but there's no paint on the armor, and the whites on the kneecaps and the edge of the shield and the back of the thrusters that's been added on, that's just white plastic. And the reason why I didn't paint is basically I don't think it's OCD, but it's a fear of rubbing away paint, because I don't like building a kit and then just having it kind of just sitting there. I like to hold it and touch it, and I want to repose it. I don't want it locked in a pose. People who do a diorama or an entry where it's a fixed pose and like it's glued or there's a post going through it, it's like my brain goes like, but then you can't do anything with it. And it's kind of like this creative prison that I don't like, because I still like kind of playing with them and like handling them. Transformers, yeah. That's why the Transformers is such a thing for me. I'll just put it back from card or robot so many times, and I just love holding it and feeling it. And so if you paint, you can rub that away. And then, of course, if I painted him in a darker red and then I was playing with it and I saw a bit of the light red coming through on an edge, it would just do my head in and I'd have to repaint it. So I'm like, I'm not going to paint the armor. And to give it a matte finish, I use like this sanding kind of sponge, and you just do little circles, and it basically makes it look like it's got a top coat. But the cool thing is I could go back and paint my Sinanju at any point because it's just raw plastic. I could just give it a wash, take all the parts off and paint it. But I did all the details with painting, and the metallics, of course, I did.
You didn't even matte coat it?
No matte coat. It's got just the lights. So there's the even the decals don't have matte coat over them, because the night I was working on this, it was down to the wire. I didn't sleep, and I'd worked the whole like previous 2 days, and I was freaking out, starting to get shakes and stuff because it was like 4 a.m. And I went to matte coat those decals now that are on the leg, and I hadn't realized my little what's the little squeezy dropper thing, pipette. I didn't realize that there had been a little bit of metallic gold on it, and I put it in my thinners bottle. So then all the metallic flakes went into my thinners bottle. So when I brought that out to put in my airbrush for the matte coat had metallic gold in it. And I sprayed over one of these decals, and I'm like, what? And I nearly... sorry?
Yeah, go on. I'm just
I nearly started crying. I was like, no, because it was like the final stage. And luckily, because there was no paint on it, I could quickly get a little cotton tip with a tiny bit of terps and just very lightly wipe off that top coat while it was still it wasn't cured. So I didn't flat coat any of it. So those decals are just kind of on there with some mark setter. So yeah.
Wow.
But so that's why if I don't paint, that means I can't apply pla plate. I can't do any putty, because you have to prime and paint over the top of that. So my only option is to remove plastic to give details to the kit. And the thing that I love building master grades because of the full inner frame, and it feels like you're building a robot from the inside out, which makes my little boy brain go, oh, this is kind of real, even though it isn't. And so, but then you cover it up with all the armor, and you get to see it when you bend the knee and stuff. So it was kind of like the Strike Gundam has a lot of exposed frame on its legs, and that's something that I really liked. So that's what I started to do. I started to take away gaps between the armor so you can see right through, and it looks like you're kind of like your PG, like you got the open hatch. It's kind of a little bit of that when you look at it, as if the armor is like going, kind of moving around. Yeah.
Ability to kind of arms move. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I like doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. What do you say?
So for the competition, like I had done a Senanju Stein, and builder Ifan in Indonesia, he saw my Stein and he said, "Man, have you entered GBWC?" And I'm like, "Oh, I think I've heard about that." When I went to Japan in 2013, they had the finals there, and Shinegi's new Gundam that won in 2013 was there, and I got to see that. And it's funny, in my video of Japan, I'm like, "Oh, this is the Gundam thing, and this must be some competition that they have every year. I don't know." So it's funny watching that video that only 2 years before, I didn't know what the GBWC was. And so then so Ifan said, "Man, you should enter," and he goes, "Your Stein's really good." So I'm like, "Okay, I'll enter. I'll do the Senanju," and I just started doing the Senanju, and I wasn't planning on entering it. And after a month or two, he said, "You should enter," and I'm like, "Okay, I'll take my Senanju and put it in." And I knew the categories, 1/3 of the category was painting, so I'm like, I might do okay, but I'm not going to win because I didn't paint it. But the judges had a big deliberation, and they awarded me points on the craftsmanship, which I think is where my experience has kind of blossomed in getting really nice, clean lines. So it allowed me to win, even though I didn't have the painting done. And I think one of the feedback points was it didn't look like it wasn't painted. So that's why it kind of got some extra points as well. So believe me, I was out of my mind surprised when Ryan called me the next morning and said, "Hey man, you're going to Japan." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, you did it." And I'm like, "What?" Yeah, it was unbelievable. Yeah.
It is interesting what results you can get even just with a matte coat. Like 90% of what I build is matte coat, and I sort of start building a few older guys, scalers and that, and some really beautiful armor and jets and that. I show them a bunch of stuff, and they're like, "So you didn't paint these?" I'm like, "I paint the inner frame, I do thrusters, I do weapons, I do a few details here and there, but no, all the armor is just a matte coat and water slides." And I think that's really it is good what people do, but it's true to what Bandai do for you already. And it's funny, some of the plastics you start to learn when you get a kit and you pull it out and you sort of snap it together and you're like, yeah, it's okay. Will I paint this one? I don't know. And you put the matte coat over it and it just changes it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like Bandai knew what was going to happen once people started to matte coding and things like that. But,
Yeah, because I think they're really smart with their approach, because like some of the high grades that are really cheap, it's like their goal is to have people build a new high grade every week. It's just like a weekend hobby thing. And make it so it's easy. Initially, it's all molded in color. They give you stickers for the little metallics, so it's almost like they've got lights in the eyes. You got all the weapons and everything. And man, you can just hold the kit just like this and just top coat the whole thing if you're not pedantic, and it just looks great. So they've made it really easy to have something look good, which is just masterful. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We just have a. I'm just putting your Ale strike up.
Oh yeah.
Let me know when you can see that there.
Yep, got that. Yep. Oh man, if people are on the fence for getting this kit, I think this was one of the later of the seed frame kits, like the Dual Assault. They use the same frame, the remaster of the Strike. It's so rock solid. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
This is the
MG version RM. Yeah.
What's the RM?
Remaster. So there was an original. I'm guessing one of the original seed master grades was the Strike. So it's kind of like a 1.0, and this is like a 2.0. But they didn't call it 2.0. They called it a remaster. I think because the frame and some of the armor was already used in like the Dual Assault Shroud and maybe the Buster. So it's almost like the original Strike was 1.0, and then those kits were 2.0. But they couldn't call them 2.0 because they hadn't existed. So yeah, this one was really, really good. This is when I was really practicing doing a lot of cutting out. As you can see, there's cuts everywhere on this. So basically, anywhere where armor joins, like on his torso, I'm like, I'm going to cut this back. And in his torso there, you can see there's like a red sort of piston thing up in his ribs. Of course, that gets covered, and I'm like, what the hell? No! So I just cut that out, use my Dremel and my files and my hobby knife. Cutting's really easy to do, and just take your time cleaning it up, and then you can just have little peaks in, and it feels like it's all moving.
Yeah. I see lots of that in that Mark II PG, because like there's the piston inners are actually on the plated runner, and they're kind of, some of them, like there's the same, there's like these like doubles that come from sort of under the armpit in the sort of around the rib cage that go down onto like the kind of the torso bit, which so the torso can kind of like do this, and there's two on either side, and when it doesn't have the armor, you can do this, and you can see all four of them sort of going in, and as soon as you put the armor on, you're like, oh, they're gone now. So it's like that same feeling of, you know, if you cut them away, you would get such a good show.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
These photos. Tell us about how you took these photos, because we've got some of the Stein here too.
Yeah. I don't know if I saw it somewhere, but of course I like, in my mind, these feel like they're big robots. But of course, in photos, it's really hard to get them to look like that. So I must have seen somewhere that somebody had taken some really low-angled photos of their kits, maybe from Japan, and I'm like, okay, I got to do that. It makes it look like it's taller. So I try and find some clean sky. And if anybody's tried to do it, it's really hard to find clean sky with no building tops, no power lines or anything. So this is my local car park at Indooroopilly. I go up there on a weekend when the sun's just nice and bright, no clouds, and just get some direct sunlight shots like this. And I just use my SLR and take a bunch of shots. Try and not get too sunburned. I did get really sunburned the first time I did this because I was so excited taking all the photos. I stayed there for like an hour. It's on the roof of your car, isn't it? Yeah, on the roof of my car. So you want to get it higher and higher so that you can be lower without having to crouch down. Yeah. They are edited a little bit in Photoshop. You can brighten up the shadows in Photoshop a bit. But the direct sunlight, you can't get crisp shadows like this at home. I did some like experimenting, and the light source needs to be so far away from your object for you to get crisp shadows. Otherwise, it's diffused. So unless you use flash at home, you can't get that. So that's why I use Mother Nature's light box and go outside and get the sun on it. It's really cool. Yeah. And this was one of the first times. Sorry?
She is good at what she does.
Yes, she is. Yep.
Yeah. So I've moved on to the inner frame pictures now. Like I'd seen those ones before, but I'd never seen these until tonight. I was like, holy cow.
I think this is probably a journey that all Gunpla painters have, is discovering that metallics exist and what you can do with an airbrush. I started out spray canning, but then I quickly got a cheap airbrush, and immediately I'm like, okay, this is what precision is possible. And I did some experimenting. I got some alclads, but the alclad doesn't dry very tough. You can rub it away with your finger. So you're meant to clear coat it, but you can't clear coat it easily. And so I did some testing out, and then I was using Tamiya spray, and I would decant those spray cans into my airbrush. And the silver Tamiya, it's a bit too speckly. And then I saw that they had a metallics range, which is maybe like $20 or $25, a bit more expensive per can, much finer particles, which is what a lot of metallics are these days. And it means you do a gloss black base, chromey sort of silver over the top. And I did some experimenting super chrome. I think in Hobbyrama, there's my chrome frame Zaku 2.0, which you probably saw.
Yep.
Just so much fun. Yeah, doing a chrome frame. But then it didn't look realistic. I wanted it to be realistic. So then I go in afterwards and add a little bit of matte black into the cracks and everything. And it probably could even be more realistic. But at this stage, I was liking having the metallic look. And then I go in and finger dry brush a little bit of matte black or a little bit of chrome silver on the edges if the metal's been freshly bumped and scraped. But yeah, the before and after, I recommend anybody painting Gunpla, take your before and after pics. If you get a little bit more money bags, you can buy a separate kit and have it next to your other kit, because even you will forget what you've done and what it looked like.
That's right. It's not like, even I do mostly like most of my inner frame is just a hit. These days, like with an RG, I'll just like snap up the entire inner frame and just sort of have standing there on the top of another can and just hitting with like a matte black, just a can in the backyard, and then just go and just dry brush like a MIG metallic silver or something, just hitting points, and it takes no time at all and it's just that totally random, and just enjoy that, just sort of like fluffing it around, and before you know it, you've got this thing in your hand, looks like it weighs 5 times what it should, sort of things.
Yeah, right. And I do enjoy, like, I don't do a full frame paint at once, because I really enjoy the meticulous taking it apart, setting it on the skewers, and spending the time on each piece, and then setting them out on my cutting board, and then slowly assembling it. Like there's some YouTubers who they'll just set out their kits, and it's just all silent, and they finish painting it, and they're snapping it together, and it's so cathartic to watch for me. So I think that's why I enjoy doing this sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Those little red details, they're just hand painted and stuff, so that's fun to go in.
Piping on the back and stuff, hey?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, so you went from the Sinanju, and then what was after that? How did you sort of feel? Like that, you said, "Oh, so surprised" and stuff. And it would have been easy just to go, "Oh, well, I threw it all on red, and I cashed in, and I'm out of here." But you decide to go back and sort of try and, I guess, double your money, so to speak. So, and that was with the Zeta, the Zeta Plus. So, tell us a little bit about that year, like the next year, all those expectations that you probably only had in yourself.
The Zeta Plus, I think I built that before I built the Master Grade Sinanju. I love that design because it's super realistic military, and like with the wings on the back, so it's transformery, I think is why I really like it. So I always wanted to build one of those, and then because I had the experience with striking Sinanju Stein and stuff, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do my Zeta, and I'm going to make it just be the best Zeta for my own brain. And I'm like, I'll do it for this year's GBWC. And I took a break after the Sinanju. I did a Hyakushinki, the 2.0. Have you built that one yet?
I've got the clear version I got from GBWC this year. You're talking about the full-on gold one, right?
The gold is painted, and it's so beautiful. So I took a break and just got that kit and just did some scribing on that. No painting or anything, just for a break. And then I'm like, okay, I'll start my Zeta. And this was the first time where I decided to actually change proportions. I'd seen a lot of Japanese builders do this, and it seemed crazy. I'm like, why are you doing that? But because this is an older design, it's a bit stumpy and a little bit pudgy, and not as lithe and athletic and muscular, and kind of lean muscular as I wanted. So I worked out how to do proportion changes by chopping plastic with my saw, adding in pla plate, getting parts from other parts, from other kits. Like I used parts from maybe 10 or so different kits. Hip joints from the Jester and the original Zeta 2.0 kit. I used some of his wing binder mounts and stuff like that. And I just went to town on it. And it was probably the most satisfying project I've ever done, because I would come across a problem. How do I get these legs to attach to these hips? And I'd spend all this time going through my parts box, seeing what would fit, what wouldn't. And then I'd have a eureka moment where a part would kind of fit. I'd grind out a little bit, it'd fit a bit better, grind out a little more, and it would just slide in as if it was designed to go there. And I'd glue it up, and then that stage would be done. And I would like carry that little piece, that little block, like the hip part, carry that to work with me and have it on my desk. It's like this little reminder, and I get all these little boosts of happiness just looking at it. It's so satisfying, and I think I understand why product engineers or engineers, when they solve a problem, the satisfaction they must have, it's indescribable. So it was almost like a cycle of those again and again. Then I went to like the wing binders, getting those done, extending the wings with extra plastic. And I'm adding in vents into the wing binders, and then probably the biggest challenge was shrinking the head down, because the head was too big, and from a lot of super robot designs, you shrink the head down, and that makes the overall body seem bigger in comparison. Mm-hmm. So I cut the head like right across the side of the face, got out plastic, glued it back together, and then cut it right across the middle, got it out plastic, glued that together, so it shrinked it down overall, and it just added that extra bit of kind of proportion and size.
Do you think maybe you could have just taken up marathon running or something?
I know. Well, that's the thing that I'm at now is I spent probably a year total on this, even though it was a 2-year build. And now I'm thinking, damn, this hobby, it's so perfect for my brain and like your brain and other people's brains. I love the shot with the light in the eyes. Oh, man. But the hobby's so perfect because you could just keep doing it. And I'm like, I could imagine if I learned piano for these 2 years. I'd be awesome at piano.
Yeah,
But I have to not think about that. It made me depressed or something.
For a few more years, and I could have a new degree. I'll play with robots.
I didn't even think of the degree thing. Oh my gosh. Yeah, like, okay, Sananju, Zeta, Gaplant, maybe a couple more years, I could have done medicine, maybe.
So it could have been,
yeah, it could have been a doctor.
So I'm going to build for you.
That's it. Just become commission boy.
Yeah.
But like the top there underneath his chin, that's like some backpack parts from the MG Jester. There were so many parts in this that were satisfying. The ankles are from the MG GM 2.0 because they were originally just a single post with a little ball joint on them. So I even forget the things that I did on this. But I encourage people, if you're thinking of ideas of things you want to do it. And if you're liking it, just keep doing it. It's kind of like this dive-in black hole, but it's a white hole of happy light. It's not a black hole. And you just dive and you get lost. It's so good.
Special. Like I look at it and just think there's so much there that. Like, look, and I've got your book. Well, I'll bring a few pics up later, but I've got your book here. Dave, print that for me. Like, look at that. It's like a sketchbook.
I never intended it to be printed. It's huge.
Huge. It is huge. That's double-sided. It's like, I don't know, something 300, about 380 pages of just so much. Everything you did. You must look at it and go, oh, that was so hard.
No, well, there was one terrible bit in it where I had cut the leg. You have to glue all the armor together on the lower legs, 2 halves, sandwich it together, glue it, let it dry, cut it in half with a saw, stack ply plate, glue it back down, grind all the ply plates so it's smooth, putty it all, prime it, and then cut those into 4 pieces.
Keep going.
And I did that on the first leg, and it took me probably about 8 hours total of actual work on it. Then I did the second leg, put it all together, I cut the pieces, and then I lined them all up, and I'm like, wait, this doesn't look right. And instead of extending it 8 millimeters, which is 4 times 2 millimeter sheets, I did 4 times 1 millimeter sheets, and I only extended it 4 millimeters. And I actually nearly threw up. Actually, I felt sick at my desk, realizing that I'd spent all that time, and I have to do it again, and I had to buy another kit because I had run out of parts. So that's the only thing in the book that I go, oh, I hated that. The rest of it, I'm like, I forgot I did that to the feet. Oh man, I forgot that they used to look like that. So I kind of forget what I did. The back skirts, I love those. So how I'm talking is probably the best way to describe my goal with this. I just look at it, and it's sitting over here on my desk now. Where is he? Can you see him? There he is. Over there. I've got him out, and just looking at him myself makes me so happy. And this whole time, I wanted to make sure I was making something that was for the competition, but that if I didn't win anything, it would be at home, and I'd love looking at it. So that was my goal, and that's why he's painted all gray. I could have done some extra colors. Other entrants, they were like, man, you've got to add some colors. And they're right. To get a bit more noticed by the judge, you've got to have more colors. It's got to be more interesting to look at. But I wanted this to look like it's a military, realistic, kind of plain Transformer gun. So I had to stick with that. So I did really well with that. My time management wasn't good enough to get it done in time. And I even took a week off work. And I spent, with the Sananju the year before, I spent all night on it, and I nearly was sick with the stress of getting it done to then go to the airport. I nearly missed my plane. I made it with like 15 minutes to spare. And I was still painting things on the Sananju in my hotel room, the little cuffs. So I'm like, I'm never doing that again. Of course, it's exactly the same. Even when you have extra time, your brain subconsciously spaces out the work, and you just end up with no time again. And I didn't get it done. And I felt so disappointed. Because I really wanted to just have it done. And so I went down to the competition, didn't have a kit to enter, and you should have seen, why can't it Lance? You should have seen Lance's face when I rocked up, and he goes, hey man, and I'm like, dude, I didn't finish. And he goes, what? And I'm like, I didn't finish, and he goes, oh, And he's like, "Oh man, I'm sorry, but oh my gosh!" And I'm like, "Yep, dude, yeah, I'm out of the race. There's less people. There's less people in the comp now." He was so happy, and I love it. It was great. So that took a little bit of time to be okay with. But when I got home, I'm like, "No, that's fine. I can just enter it next year." And this means I'm not focusing on the competition. So then I had about 6 months break on it. And then I'm like, okay, I'll kick back into it. And because I was rushing to finish it, there were some things that I couldn't do to it in time. But now I have more time. So I end up spending another 6 months on it, adding in all these extra level details.
Yeah.
I basically finished it a week or two ahead of time. And I'm like, even if I had 6 more months, there's nothing more to add on it. It is like perfect in my eyes. And so I got it done. And when I set it up down at GBWC, my girlfriend was there with me, and I set it up, and once again, nearly started to cry because I'm like, I can't believe it's done, and it's here, and I'm happy with it. It was fantastic. And when they were announcing the winners and stuff, because if you've won before, it sucks that your brain thinks, oh man, I might get something this year. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should place because my craftsmanship is the same kind of level, and I painted it, so that's a bit crazy. But I'm like, but it's not flamboyant. It's not crazy looking. So maybe I'll just place. And it's interesting. I never thought I would think like that because I like to think of myself as humble and got my focus in the right direction. But I think it's the power of competition. It can be a bit of a poison. If you got to be prepared for the disappointment. And they announced the winners. Third place wasn't me. Second place wasn't me. And I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have got first place. First place wasn't me. And realistically, I was like, maybe about 50% disappointed, 50% not disappointed. So it was still there. And then an hour or two later, I didn't care because I was genuinely happy for the other guys who won. So that's why my third time with the Gaplant, I'm only focusing on the build. I'm doing a 1/144, this random kit design, and Kawaguchi even says the random kit designs don't do too well because nobody knows them. So I'm like, cool. I'm gonna set my bar even lower, so there's no way I can win. And it was a good decision to do that. So yeah.
And the Gaplant, when we caught up at Zoms to that time, and you brought a few bits in, I'd seen your little your renders and stuff and everything. I was just like, what is this thing? But when you brought it in, and it was interesting, even watching the way you reluctantly handed it over. I think Dave and Greg and I were there, and you're like, just take it. And I was like, I don't know. And you're like, no, just take it. But as you handed it, you're like,
oh, did I?
really want me to take it, but you did. So.
I don't remember that. I mean, I don't remember you putting off that body language.
Of course not, but it's a new child. Can you see the Gapsleys there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was something that I decided to do this year. Is put the before and after kit, so put the before unmodified kit next to it, because my work tends to be a bit more refined and a bit more nano on the kind of the scale of the details.
And your work also actually looks like it's meant to be there.
Sorry?
What most people say is what you do looks like the way it should be. And so it's like if you painted it all purple, we'd be like, oh, he painted it purple. Yeah. But the fact that you've done so much precision work and so much detail, you're like, that looks like the best kit band ever put out. What's the big deal? Like, you paint the skirt's green. What do you do? And underneath, that you've got to have that before kit next to it to really show people this is what it was. It's important.
I think that's something that I must have read or heard somewhere where they said when they're looking at a kit, if you can tell that it was that a human's touched it, as in like a line's wobbly or there's a paint smudge or something like that, it immediately brings you out of the illusion, and you want to have the illusion. And so all the details and stuff that I put in there, I want them to look realistic. I want them to look like a human didn't do them. And I want it to all meld together so when you look at it, you're not thinking a human did this. You can get lost in the mecha design and the details themselves as if they feel real. So that's what I always strive to do. Maybe that's why all my stuff's kind of smaller in terms of detail and changes. But I even forget what I've done yet.
The HD, working on the HD after doing, predominantly MG.
Oh man, you have to, again, for the realism, I had to scale down all my details. So notches that I would do on a 1/100, I had to use a 0.6 millimeter chisel. I had to go down to a 0.3 or a 0.4 to keep the scaling down smaller. So it was a challenge. And I did like it because it was a challenge in that sense, and it does everything's so minuscule on it. But I think for me, the 1/100 is the perfect scale for giving me that illusion of a big mecha. The 1/144s are a bit small for my mind, but there's no 1/100 gap fleet, so I decided to go this. And I thought, 1/144, that'll be heaps quicker. But of course, that like white light black hole I was talking about, I dove into it without realizing, and I thought, I'll just spend a few weeks on this, and no, just like 3 or 4 months on it. Which shows I was doing it right, because I ended up doing it all for me anyway. In the end, going, I want to add these to the shoulders, I'm going to do this to the leg, and I just kept working at it. But I'm really proud of this one. Yeah. And I'm really proud of this one because it's not only painted, but it's painted in more colors than gray, which is a first for me. Yeah, look out.
So proud of you.
Yeah.
I think I was talking about before, like the head is what sort of blows me away the most. I don't know why. It's sort of, the original Gaplant does have a kind of this weird kind of duckbill thing, and like what you did with the head is still kind of duckbilly, but it just has more of a natural form to it. Did you kind of like slope the V-fins back or something? Or
the head, I like the head because it's crazy looking. The whole design is just so random. I didn't even know it existed till I saw it. I think it was Zomster on the shelf. But I didn't like his droopy chin. And I must have been looking at the Hyakuren, the Iron Blooded Orphans kit, and I saw that it had this pointy chin. And I'm like, maybe I can get that chin and swap it out, because I wanted to swap out the chin. And so I cut the bottom half of the Hyakuren's face, cut the half off the Gab Flea, stuck it on, so there's a lot of putty and plastic in there. And it gives it that almost like Tutankhamun Pharaoh sort of pokey chin.
Yeah,
because I love I can't do it like how everybody does, like the tough face, and that's what the Gundam looks like he's doing, and then his chin's poking out as much, so he's like, ugh. And it's like, I don't even have to look at you, and I can still just take you on. It's so silly, but I think that's why everybody does those down head poses as well. So there's a lot of work in the head there, and then the V-fin that comes out from the chin on the Gap Flea, it's a softer plastic, and I didn't want to paint that, and didn't know how to paint that to not have it bend and flake off. So I'm like, I got to make the V-fin again. So the chin V-fin is 2 fins from the Builder's Parts kit. You can buy V-fins, and so I've glued them together, and they press in. And of course, I like to challenge myself and not use glue if possible, so I can still paint things separately. So those V-fins are joined, they snap in, and I carve the little cavity for them. And then there's a neck piece underneath that pushes in and clips them in like that. So that is one of those satisfying moments that I love. So I'm really happy with the head. And then added in some little notches and panels and stuff like that. And I purposely did a bit less detailing than I normally would, because there's still going to be decals on this. So I have to keep that in mind, that they'll add some details as well. But I'm so happy with the head. Yeah.
I love the feet. You'll probably see in a sec where they're like looking up from the rear, and you can see the boosters under the rear of the ankles and stuff. Did you take a lot away from the back of the legs there and change a lot of that?
Yeah, the back of the legs, I didn't take too much away. The standard kit has that kind of upward scoop view of those thrusters. And if anybody hasn't built this kit, this is one of the best HGs. The legs are like full inner frame, and they transform out into these big claws. And all those thrusters on the back, they're all individual thrusters. And the ones on the elbows, they're I think a 3-piece joined together. So it's all these cool thrusters, all molded in red. So I really like that. But the back ankle, a little rim going over the heel thrusters, that was one big solid smooth piece. But I wanted to make it look like there were some flaps, kind of like to direct the thrust or something. So
stuff, yeah.
So I used my chisel to scrape those out and separate them a bit, and then bring in the lower rim on the outside so that the flaps on the back extend out a bit more. So I didn't add any plastic. I basically removed plastic to the side of them, which made it look like they were extending. Same as the flaps on the elbows as well, on the back of the arms. I removed plastic so it looks like they're extending up. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
and this one has... Go.
You're up. After you.
This one has probably the most magnets that I've used. If anybody hasn't used magnets, get some of the neodymium rare earth magnets, little tiny ones, and especially with high grades, if you don't know how to attach something, or you need to attach something through somewhere else, just put 2 magnets in, and Bob's your uncle. Everything sticks on. Yeah.
Brilliant. So this is you packing it up and
off?
off?
This was like the day before, and this is part of me letting myself celebrate kind of the achievement and moment every time. I spend maybe 60 or 70 bucks on one of these little foam cases, pull out all the stuff, place it in like it's some, I don't know, rare $1 million, like gazillion dollar diamond necklace or something that I'm going to handcuff to. Fabergé Gundam. So yeah, I like putting this down. So I've done that for my Zeta and St. Andrew and the Gaplant, and a lot of people have done it as well. I wasn't the first one, and it's fun seeing everybody rock up with their cases.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, these days when you're carrying them on planes and stuff, you put all that work into it, you know. It's not like James Denise's from last year. Like his was a tea chest size box. Well, it was 498 by 498 by 498, but still, like when he walked in with it, we actually used it as a table for the sign-in sheet.
Oh, really?
As we were queuing up to go in and put our kits in, it was big enough to use as a coffee table.
Oh man, yeah, that's hilarious. I've never had to transfer a big diorama, so I don't even know what that's like. And big diorama says nothing for his dioramas. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's right.
And this is a little trick that I even told the Gunpla Talk guys about this, and I don't think Tim believed me. But when you've washed your parts before painting them, and you want them to dry, of course, sometimes you just want to keep painting. So I put them in a tea towel, and then tie the tea towel off at the end, and then put it in my clothes dryer, but put it on the cool setting so it just tumbles around. So they're all stuck in there like that. Tumble them around for about 10 or so minutes, and then you tip them back out, and they're all bone dry. So there's a little hot for you. Yeah, don't use hot air, though. Don't have it on the hot setting, otherwise you'll have a customized Gundam in the middle. Yeah.
Was it like that the Vercarb square thing, like Gundam Ver Blob or something? It'll be
the Logic, but Ver Blob.
Logic Blob.
Yeah. And this is just me doing. This is the first time I've had to do so much masking like this because it's a high grade. These parts, if it was a master grade, would be master grade, and I can separate them. So there's a lot of masking on this, and the masking takes time to do, but pulling it off is so satisfying when you do it. Have you done masking yet yourself?
A little bit. I've actually done a little bit. I've actually recently done like a big forward drive, a hard shell, and I've masked all the side steps and the guards and stuff like that. And I've been working on that for about 6 months, and I'm just about to put like a final clear cut, like a 2K on it, which will go really rock hard because it's for an RC rock roller. So I'm putting a 2K clear on it, just waiting for the train to pass. It's still masked up. It's not here, and then I'll eventually get to peel it off and see, because it was a yucky matte black plastic, and I put like a tan on it and weathered it and stuff. So yeah, I've been sitting and looking at it going, geez, I hope I didn't wreck it, but it'll be fine. But yeah. I did try the masking on the what was it? Oh, Suzabi there. Once I sort of put a lot back together, I wanted to mask because I did a lot of use the Molotov pen on some chrome bits that were sort of exposed, and I wanted to put a matte coat over it. I'm like, well, there's no point. I don't want to cover that up. So I did, and I was like, wow, this is, you need to just get your head in the game and just mask and just accept that's what you need to do to get that result.
I think it's a bit of a mind uphill, but when you do it and you peel it off and see how good it can look, it's worth it. Yeah.
You've got to do a few before you realise it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like walking up that hill so you can skate back down it. You're like, what? Walk up that hill? Are you kidding me? And then you're like, ooh, I'm awesome. You get the bottom of it, and as soon as you pick up your deck, and you're like back up that hill, and about a quarter of the time, the first time you walked up it, you're boom, and you just bomb and runs for like an hour and a half, and you're like, just hit 6 on the first time, you weren't going to go up. So that's masking.
That's such a good metaphor. That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah. So that was really, and also if people haven't used Blue Tack is really good for masking, like the liquid. It's you just press it on and then peel it off. Works really good. Yeah. Well, there's my little white auctioneer's gloves for putting it together. Because remember how I said I'm paranoid of rubbing paint away. This was really fun putting it together. I hadn't seen it, of course, together in color, and it was great. Yeah, so fun.
It must have been pretty rad to stand up next to the original there and just go, It was.
And the thing with the high grades is you do have to do a lot of, they don't have inner frame underneath like elbow armor or rear skirt armor or something like that. So you do have to do a lot of, I had to paint the inside of these arms because they're very visible. And so if you see on the back of the thigh, on the leg on the right there, that's all dark gray on the inside. The side of the thigh armor, you have to paint all that. That's the problem with some high grades. If you can see up and underneath. And underneath where those heel thrusters are, I had to paint the whole inside of the leg. So that was not fun. I really didn't like that. And while you're painting that, you're hoping that you don't actually get a bit of paint on your finger and press it on the other side where you've airbrushed. Oh boy. But yeah, that's the inner frame I'm talking about. It's cool. It's so cool.
Pretty rad.
Sorry?
It's pretty rad.
And a little bit of orange never goes astray. A lot of the Japanese builders do that, and that's the first time, and I rate it. Yeah.
Little highlights, yes. So this is the book. We'll just bring that up. The book, and as you say, hey, what you want? Yes. So you're just at joshuadarrah.com.
Yep, Joshua Darrah, JOSHUADARRAH.com. Yeah. Buy my work there. I sell prints of my ballpoint drawings of Gundams, and then I sell the book here. And this is the second version. I did a first version, which I finished before I took it to the competition, and then I did a second version now, which has updated gallery photos and kind of a bunch more sort of story and write-up of the process.
The intro is... I just want to quickly read the intro. It's
so funny to hear it again.
Yeah. Something about... Oh, no, I should have researched it more, but there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. It's pretty much you just like rambling to yourself.
Yeah.
as if you're bring, and then you kind of turn and go, oh, is someone listening? Oh, yeah, I put my pen down. I kind of think it's a really entertaining read, and right through it is that real that sense of it's more of a journey than a building manual. Or if you would like to make it like this, you should do it like this. It's more like this is how I did it, and it was really hard, or it was really easy. You know, like it's more about going with you as opposed to like follow me kind of thing.
Totally, because I didn't plan on doing the book at all. Like I was just taking photos along the way and sharing them, because partially for me, so I could look back, but then also because I'm like, oh, people have asked, oh, can you show us photos? So I just took photos every week when I would do a part and post it. And then somebody said, oh, it'd be nice if all these photos in your Facebook, because there was like, I don't know, 40 albums. If it was a PDF, and I'm like, oh, really? You can just get the albums? So I'm like, okay, I'll make a PDF. And I remember Radiohead years ago did their pay what you want for the album. So I'm like, oh, I'll do that with the book. And it just went crazy.
You're a rock star. I mean,
you know, me and Tom York were buds. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have a look at some of your art there. Like I said, I've got I've got the sign there, and I've got the Alpha is over on that corner as well. I'm a bit of a Stein fan.
Oh man, you got good taste.
Yeah, I just wish I had an extra kidney. I would have got it just that bit bigger. I think I got A1, which was still quite large. That like Dave Princem, our buddy, Big Irish Dave, and he's like the Air Zero man. It's he'll use an expletive because he cusses like a mofo. It's huge kind of thing. It would be massive.
It is, yeah. Oh my God,
just sort of flick through these whilst you're sort of talking about, I guess, you know, where do you get the time to do these? And, you know, and sort of, you know, do you get many out there? And, you know, it's a bit of an idea of what you're doing with your ballpoint drawings.
This the drawing, I mean, I've drawn for years. But if anybody's drawn, you might notice that you get in patches where you feel like you need to draw something like, I don't know, cityscapes or portraits. And you're like, I don't really want to draw this. And you feel compelled to finish the drawing because you can't. You should always finish things. And I think it's terrible. And so I wasn't drawing anything for ages because I wasn't liking any subjects. And of course, Gundam is just fantastic. And I think one day I was out at a cafe and I'm like, oh, I don't have any Gundam to build, but I still want to be in Gundam imagination world. So I'm like, oh, I'll get a photo of a Gundam and draw it. And I just had a ink pen with me. So I drew the C1 and just some photo that I found online. And I really enjoyed it. And so then I started finding other photos like this Sanaju versus Unicorn. and this one from a Master Archive book. And I started drawing them, and just was having heaps of fun doing it. And I really like black and white in artwork and photography because you focus on the form and the light and the shade a bit more. Color I find is a bit distracting. And so I started doing black and white. And then what I started to do was, this has fine liner, the Sazabi has fine liner and ballpoint pen. The fine liner is the really dark areas, but the ballpoint pen allows you to do more of a pencil shading. I really like pencil, but like with paint on Gundams, I don't like it when it smudges away and wrecks your drawing. And these will take me 20 to 25 hours to do. So there's a lot of handling of the page. So I tested some ballpoint pens out, and I found a really cheap one, Kilometrico by Papermate. And I slowly have learned how to do hatching, cross-hatching, whereas you go one way and the other way, and you keep repeating, and it slowly builds up the darkness. And so I've gotten better and better at it. And like my Sananji is my last one that I did, and it's probably the softest drawing I've done. Like, you have to get pretty close to see the actual hatch lines, which it's kind of been of a pursuit of perfection, or a pursuit of mastership of this, to try and get it looking real. I take a photo of the kit out in the sun, of course, to get the really harsh shadows and the nice reflections on the chrome, and I draw from that. So I copy it. I have it sitting on my phone, and I have my page here, and I'll draw at a cafe or a bar. But now that I feel like I've achieved that with the Sananju, I'm tempted to go back to like the Sazabi and other kit drawings where it's a bit more textured, looks a bit more like a drawing, so it has a bit more of an artistic feel. So I haven't drawn one for a long time. I still want to draw my Zeta Plus, but I haven't drawn one for a while. But these are all available on my site, and I sell them in all different sizes, A4 or up to AO, and I scan them in super high res, so they look really good.
I haven't got the one of the Stein here. That's terrible. But the Stein is beautiful. It really is a beautiful, beautiful picture. And it has, there's something, sorry, I just feel the need to look at it. Like, especially like the Sananju and the Stein, there's something about it that it's hand-drawn. You can just tell. And you kind of, it's almost like one of those, those pictures where they're like 3D pictures? Where it just looks like dots and stuff, and when you stare at it long enough, you go, "Oh, it's a space shuttle! Oh my god!" And with your pictures, I find, especially the Sananju, when I look at it, I've only seen it online. You kind of move in and out of. If you kind of just look at it, you get that full illusion that it's this big, massive robot, all the shading and the lighting and stuff. But then when you kind of look at it, you go, "Man, he's just done that with like a pen." That is, especially the knee. His left knee just blows me away.
Yeah, there is
depth, there is like meat there, and all the way the knee goes in, that blows me away.
So of course because I know it's going to take me 25 or 30 hours, I labor over the photo. So there are about 10 photos of this pose, varying angles of like 5 degrees difference, because I'm like, I have to choose the right photo, because then I'm going to draw this thing. And so it takes a bit of dedication like that. But like, I'll start off drawing on the left side. I'll draw the gun, and that'll be 2 hours, and then I'll draw the arm, and that'll be another 2.5 hours. So I do it in different sessions. But like I was saying before with the Zeta, how it's kind of for my enjoyment. Same with this. I'll be drawing that little bit, and then the next day I'll open my sketchbook out again, and then I'll be like, oh my gosh, that looks so freaking rad. So because I drew these originally just for myself. They weren't going to be made prints or anything like that. It was just for my own book to keep at home. But then I started selling them. But it's still, for me, like, I'll if somebody orders a new print, I'll get my stack of prints, and then I'll just sit there and go, oh my gosh, wow, that looks really cool.
You said before you draw the gun and then you draw the arm, so you don't do like a kind of like a rough sketch of the whole thing. Excuse me for like a total non-arty person, but like a big circle for the body, and the arm is like 4 circles and stuff, and then you kind of start working on it. You literally just start with the gun.
No, I do that because I also have a fear of proportions being wrong. Or I don't know if you remember drawing as a kid, you start to draw the feet, and then you're like, wait, the head doesn't fit in on the page because you didn't do your proportions right. Yeah. I remember that so much and getting so angry at some drawing. So, no, I definitely do a proportions kind of abstract sketch. And for the Sananju, I think to get the Gundam's really hard to get the head proportioned with the rest of the body and get it fit in the page. So I think I did 5 base sketches of the Sananju, and I was looking at them all, and I'm like, okay, that one doesn't look good. This one, okay, this one's right. And so then I build in and I go in with my pacer pencil, draw in even more detailed shapes. Then I draw in all the fine detail. Then I lightly erase it, and that's when I go over with the ballpoint pen. Yeah. So I definitely have to do that. Yeah. Otherwise, he'll look super derpy. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's something a little different, but I know that's something that's very you're very fond of. Your house. I remember hearing you talk about it on with Zach and Tim, and I was like, what the hell is he talking about? This dude makes these robots and stuff, and he's doing this tiny little house and this little car. You were holding it up to the camera. I think you were showing. You were showing like a chair or a bucket or something, and I was like, he's a special fella. But you see these pictures, and you sort of get it. You know, I'll just sort of flick through the pictures, but there's some. I think there's like a hose on the side of the house and everything.
There's a hose and
tiny little house.
So these are paper kits that you can get. I'll hold up some pieces here. Wait, can people see me or not really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can see me. Okay, cool. You get little paper kits that are all laser cut and everything like that. So it's kind of like a Gunpla kit, but made out of laser cut paper. The laser is just flawlessly precise, and everything goes together so well. And you just glue it together with just some like the craft glue that's milky and dries clear. And there's little pegs and posts, so a lot of it will actually stay together just by pressing it in. And there's little tabs and notches like
tires behind the car in the garage.
So this is like how Bandai is like the attention to detail is off the charts. Same with whoever does the Sankai, Sankei, Sankai. And you're like, what is this little circle? It's spare tires. Oh my gosh! And then like little pot plants are actually made of like 3 little cylinders, and then you put a little bit of foam in there, and it looks like a little flower sitting in there. And those little
all the foam, grass and stuff comes with the kit, all the shrubs and everything.
So the shrubs are actually little bits of dyed foam, light green, dark green. You just take off little pieces and glue them down. The grass is like a little grass powder, and it's kind of like when you would put glitter on a card when you were a kid. You put down the glue, sprinkle the glitter on, and then tap it out. Same thing. So to get the grass on the steps, I just toothpicked a little bit of glue, and the grass just sticks on it. And so scale modelers have probably been using this little powder grass for years and decades, and this is the first time I've used it. So of course, I'm flipping out over it. And this is the Sankai. They do generic kind of Japanese old townhouses and stuff like that. But this is from the Ghibli movie, Studio Ghibli, and this is from the Ponyo movie. Have you seen Ponyo?
No, not yet. We have discussed it previously. But no. Not me.
I couldn't remember, yeah. And so this is from one of the scenes. The little boy, he finds a goldfish and he fills up the bucket with water, and there's this little sink and little hose, and this is maybe like 8 parts. And then the car this took me about an hour and a bit to do. And they give you little bits of clear plastic so you can make the glass and put it all together. And the license plate and headlights and like the side mirrors were separate. So if you really like meticulous, tiny stuff, these I highly recommend them. They're not cheap. This was about maybe $50 or something like that. But it took me hours and hours. And just looking at it, it's that whole suspension of belief or disbelief, and just there's magic looking at this thing. If you're looking at a real little house, it's so much
incredible. There's one of the Facebook groups I follow. I think it's called Weather Models, and there's a lot of guys that do these cars that look like they're in junkyards and stuff. There's other guys that do shots where it might be like a couple of Chevys parked in a street, like out the front of like a drugstore, and there's like lamp posts and stuff. And it's probably a diorama that's, probably 172 scale cars, and it's probably the size of 3 shoeboxes, and they pop it down just right with real sunlight.
Yep.
And it just looks like Sesame Street or something. It is insane.
So good. Yeah.
Not pick it. Yeah. You can look as modelers. You see stuff. There's little hints, and it's on a Facebook page, and you go, "Yeah." But you show that photo to any normal human being that doesn't do this sort of stuff. It's insane. It blows me away. I enjoy looking at modelling these days. My whole 9-10 months of building, but I'm really starting to actually just as much enjoy looking as building, and watching other people do things. And I think when you first start building, if you're great, you just hit it and you just start smashing it. If you're average, you still enjoy it, but you get to that point where you can just kind of like enjoy what everybody else is doing. it's a really good space to be in. There's no pressure on yourself to build. There's no pressure on yourself to punch out. And every weekend you can just sit back and relax, and stuff like that. You just sit back and you just go, that's just some people are just amazing, and like you're amazing with putting it together. But the guys that have all this, that's amazing. Imagination.
Like I did a bit to this, like the grass on the outside, the long grass. That's like separate hobby grass that you stick down because I wanted it to look more like the cartoon. It had big wavy grass. And the tree isn't cardboard. I use like a real branch to stick it together. But all the amazement comes from the people who designed that kit, that it just goes together like that. But this is a little thing where, because I'm Gundam Josh, and I could have not done this. I could have done another Gundam kit and spent time on that. But I followed what I felt like, and I ended up spending like 2 or 3 months on that. Taking it into work, showing my teammates, like, look, I did the car today, and they're like, oh, dude, bring the house in again. And it's just, you just follow what you're into. And I agree with looking at other people's builds. One of my favorite things to do is on Twitter, I just follow a bunch of Japanese builders and just go through and look at their photos of their kits, and it'll be a kit with some pieces glued in, half in primer, and I just enjoy looking at the photos so much. It's really fun.
Most of my Instagram these days is leaning more towards people I'm following where I don't understand a single thing in their caption. And there's something very refreshing about just looking at the image and being forced to not have them go, oh, I only got 3 decals on tonight, I'm slowly chipping away. The stuff we always put, which is...
You're right.
But just having the picture and just seeing the picture and just doing what you want with the picture, as opposed to being told, see, I don't have decals on. You go, oh, that kind of spoiled it, man. It looks really fantastic. There's some guys seem to be whipping this like amazing weathered whip for weeks and weeks and weeks. I'm like, man, it looked rad 3 weeks ago. I can't keep up with you, So,
no, I think you're right with it. That's what I like about the Japanese. Is I'm scrolling through, and all I'm looking for is images that just attract me, and I just want to spend time looking at them. The writing or anything, I'm not distracted by that at all. I think I really like it. Yeah, it's fun.
I mentioned to you before, probably this is before I met you, 60 to 70% of the reason why I bought my first Gundam kit and built it was because of your kits at Hobbyrama. Now, it's when you first walk in, there's some on the right-hand door, but there's enough to fill probably inside. There's probably enough to fill 4 or 5 Detolfs easily, and they'd be shoulder to shoulder. It's a really impressive display. I'm going to flick through. There's a couple that you've done that you put the work in. There's a lot of snaps there, but you're very lucky to have the opportunity to walk in and go, that looks rad. And that looks Mara size, and that really cool chrome inner frame Zaku's in there and things like that. So did they just say to you, hey dude, have you got anything on this week? Could you just snap up about 60 kits?
No, this is when you've been in it for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, and you just start buying kits. I have hundreds of, like maybe 130 or 40 kits now. And I have them all, I don't have them on display. I only have 1 or 2 on display. The rest are in bags in like tubs. So I had them all in there, and I became friends with Casey, one of the managers at the shop there, and because they had Gundam in there, and he's just a cool guy. And I think a couple of years ago, I said, man, you should do a Gundam workshop, and he goes, oh man, would you do the workshop for this? And so I kind of went in there as like a facilitator, and we did a workshop, opened it up to kids and people who hadn't built before. So we've kind of had a relationship since then, and they've gotten more kits in, and I said, man, it'd be really good to put some kits on display, so that people, because I think the hurdle is people don't know how good they look, and then they also don't know that they're just snapped together. So this one here is like before and after. So this is something that you see like in Japan in shops, because the thing that I loved in Japan was you go to one of the Gundam shops, and there's just hundreds of them on display, and I know all the kids, I've seen them before, but just seeing them in there, it's like you're in a toy shop, and I'm like, this is what you need to have. So I said, man, I've got all these kits. If you want to put any on display, just let me know. And a little bit of time went by, and he said, okay, man, we've cleared a whole cabinet for you. Bring it. Is that cool if you bring them in? And I'm like, dude, yeah, I'll just bring it. So I took my tubs in, and I spent half a day assembling them and putting them in there, and putting in a big mix of like master grades and high grades, because what I wanted it is for, and I made sure that the kits would all go all the way to the ground so the kids would see them as well. I didn't want them only for adults to see.
Yeah.
And heaps of different designs, and hopefully people who are in there, they'll be like, oh, that one. And then they can say to the staff members, man, do you have that one? Or what about this one? And you can check the boxes and see what's there. And I did these little signs saying there's just hundreds of designs and that you don't need paint, you don't need glue. And I did a little display because for me, my enjoyment is the inner frames of the master grades. So I remember seeing when the first RE kit, the Nightingale, I was at a hobby show, and they had the leg, and it was kind of exploded with all these little pipes and stuff. And I'm like, that was so cool to me. And I'm like, so I want to do something like that. So I got the MG Delta Plus's leg. There you go. And this was so much fun. And I did this kind of one night using super glue and a little pin vise and just paper clips because they're really strong, and a clear rod, and assembled the leg as if it's all kind of opening up. Because I know for me, I would love looking at this. So, yeah. And this has been up there maybe for like a year and a half now, this display. And they have some out the front shelves that they sometimes move around. But, yeah. So, yeah.
All that leg, it gives you, it's a real inspiration just to buy some random kit that you might not like the look of, but, just take it somewhere else.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. I mean, that's so cool that it nudged you into it even further.
Oh, yeah. Totally. It makes it, like you said, like when I went to Japan, I went to Gundam Base Tokyo, and there's like every single kit that exists.
That's right.
Is there. And it's not just the ones that are on display for like the awesomeness, but once you move into, because you went to the, whatever, was it like the old one or something? The new one's like, they say it's much more like a store. But when you walk into the store, there is like every single kit that's on that shelf is snapped up somewhere in that room. And I had no idea what I was looking at. I just saw 3,500 robots and went, oh my God. Just to be there and see, a cabinet the size of, your living room walls is full of all the PGs and stuff. It just, you can really look at things and go, you know what, I think I'm going to spend the money on that. Otherwise, it's opinion.
It's an easy way for you to end up buying a kit, because I remember seeing the Master Grade Dual Assault Shroud, and I'm like, oh, the box is okay. Then I saw one built in Japan, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks so good. Yeah, so seeing it in the flesh. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Just going to sorry, go on.
I was going to say before, when we were talking about the scale models and photos outside and the suspension of like reality, I originally was into bonsai trees. And I was into those in a big way, working on them for hours and hours at night, doing all the wiring and trimming. And I really liked ones about this big, not too big, basically because they felt like mini big trees. And it's that same sort of thing. And I think that's why I enjoy Gundam as well, because it's replicating something in your imagination. It goes, oh, that's big, even though it's little.
Yeah. You feel like, if you see I'm the same. I've always thought bonsai would be cool, but I'm like, I'll probably kill it. Then I feel like I've done something horrible to the universe or something like that. If you see a bonsai tree, you can imagine yourself climbing in.
Yes.
That's. I think that person's done the job. If you see a tree that looks like a little oak tree, and you're like, I could see myself up in the branches of that oak tree.
Yep.
Nailed it.
So good.
You've done a few overseas trips.
Yeah, I have.
Got a thing coming up here, Singapore. So, do you want to sort of tell us? We've got probably a few more minutes. Tell us about how lucky you've been over the last few years.
This is the stupidest thing that I still can't believe happened because of the Senanju, and I guess because my style was sort of different to other people. I got really popular in the hobby and kind of on social media, in the forums and the sharing and everything. And so then I got invited over to Indonesia in 2015, I think. 2015, after I'd won the GBWC with the Senanju for Australia. Got invited over to Indonesia, and they're like, we'll fly you over, we'll put you up, and we just want you to do a workshop for people. We're going to have a competition. You and a couple other people do the judging, and the hosts are just so nice and so warm and welcoming. And I get to meet people who are like, man, I follow you on Instagram, or I love your Senanju and stuff like that. And I'm just like, what the hell? What? And it was just magical and so nice. And then you just end up hanging out, having dinner, and hanging out with everybody and making friends.
It's an artist, isn't it? Like you're you're realistically an artist that is fortunate enough to make a living from it. The Gundam stuff aside, I think if you're a sports person, there's a certain sort of fame that's expected as a sports person. If you're an AFL player, or if you're a politician, or even if you're a doctor, there's a certain respect that's expected of these people. But as an artist, doing it for a lot more inner satisfaction, and then when other people in the world go, I'm sharing your satisfaction, that's got to be really sort of ticking a bunch of boxes for you. Humble boxes.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know what to do. I would just be like, man, wow. And I'm like, yep, pleasure to meet you. And I'm like, man, ask me any questions. I'll give you advice, or what. Show me your kid. I'll talk about that. Tell me what you did. I don't make like a living off of it or anything, or I'm not making money, maybe besides selling my prints in my book. But getting to have opportunities like this is crazy. And then like a few months later, I got invited over by Kenny Lim to Singapore, which was what this was for the texturing competition. So I'm like, hey family, I'm invited to Singapore. And they're like, what? And I'm like, I know, what the hell? And once again, great hosts, and I was over there for about a week, and the competition was great, and meeting all the builders in the entrance, and we got to dinner and just hang out, and I did like this 2-hour workshop where I had this microphone and stuff, and I had my camera set up on a TV so that everybody could see it, and I show everybody how I do my detailing and everything. And then last year I was invited over to Dubai by Otaku ME, a shop over there, and I was there for a week, and I was over in Dubai, and I'd never been there before. And the hotels in Dubai, off the charts. And my host was like, man, we got you an okay one. I really wanted to put you in a nicer one, but with the budget. And I got in there, and I'm like, this is the okay hotel. This is the best hotel I have ever stayed in my life. And I'm like, the bed is huge. Oh my gosh, look at the view and the room. And it was ridiculous. But once again, hanging out with everybody is the best thing. I still can't believe I've been offered to go over and do stuff like that. So it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, it must be great just to sort of see, the Gundam sort of love and the Gundam interest, but with those other sort of cultural sort of nuances and stuff. Like we see it with all the different rounds that go on through the GBWC. Like you see this from this part of the world and that from that part of the world, but to actually see, like you see a lot of these photos on Gumpa Network of someone in Indonesia somewhere. There's like 3 dudes sitting on the floor in a pair of shorts. Snap kids up, and you're like, it doesn't get any better than that. I don't care if they're dye bands or whatever. Like they're just hanging out together, building these kits, and they're grinning and stuff. And
what I like about these competitions that I've been over there for is they weren't GBWC; they were individual competitions. And I really enjoyed that. It seemed like the support for everybody, even for winners and everything, like the winner in the Dubai competition, like 15 or 20 people in the crowd just leapt up screaming when we announced the winner because they're just all friends and they've got such a community over there. And it's really cool. So I really support the hobby shops that are doing their own competitions. I think it's the future. And to get the focus onto the people doing their own competitions and their own celebration as opposed to just Bandai. I think
it reminds me a bit of this.
Oh yes,
that straight to the bin. Like this, to me, is one of the reasons why whether you turn up with these again or not is one of the reasons why I'll go to GBWC next year, and and until onwards, straight to the bin. It just takes all the sting out of it. There was some people there that I met that kind of, like especially on the after party and stuff, and they were sort of scratching their heads. Like, it's all good builds and everything, but they were scratching their heads as to, why didn't I get a place? And it's like, it is really hard, especially when you get drawn from that, I'm artistic and then a competition. And that sort of thing just kind of goes, you know what? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
I almost wish, if I could have a GBWC wish, it's that there would be no big prize. There's no first, second, third. There might be some people's choices or something like that, but just there's no prizes. We all bring a kit, put it on display, talk about it, gas bag, and enjoy each other's work. Because but that's my personal opinion. I think other people are more competitive and they really do like the competition of it. and the striving and the success, or I didn't get it this year, I'm going to go next year. So I can't speak to that because that's kind of different to my approach. But that's why the straight to the bin, because that was with the year that I finished the Zeta. And of course I didn't win anything. And a couple of my other friends, Finn and Aaron, who's the winner from Australia for this year, they didn't place or anything. And we spent months and months on our entries. And then I'm like, oh, guys, this would be funny if we take a photo with us holding our kits with just mega disappointed face, which is the opposite to what we were feeling. We were just like, oh, man, who cares if we didn't win? We still had fun and we're hanging out. So I'm like, okay, yep, serious face. And our kits are going straight to the bin because it's like the joke is we spend all this time, but we're so fickle that because we didn't place, we're like, screw this, in the bin. Like that. So that's the whole joke. And then they really liked it. And so this year I got those badges made and we gave them out to every entrant except the people who win because they don't deserve it. No, they win. You don't earn a place in the bin by winning. Yeah.
And there's not one person I've had I've been fortunate enough to speak to in this type of situation that hasn't said, it's bloody hectic. You know, I've spoken to James, I've spoken to Lance, I've now spoken to you, I've spoken to Aaron. You know, you guys have all been there. James has been like this close so many times. You know, it's not one of you that hasn't said, oh, I don't know, was it worth it? Yeah, it was. But in retrospect, I could have I could have been a doctor by now. Yeah.
And it's hard for me to talk about it now because I have won. If I hadn't won, then maybe I'd still be trying to. So I'm coming from a privileged sort of spot because I have won. So I'm like, well, man, don't worry about the competition, guys. Just do it for fun. As I'm holding my gold trophy, and so I understand that that's different. But I don't know. Any way that I can encourage people to do it for their own reasons. And that's it, your own reasons. If you're there to win, that's totally fine. Nothing wrong with that. And if you're there just to have fun, then that's just as noble. So
just be prepared to get a kick in the nuts.
Yeah. I mean, that's just, I guess we learn that in life, disappointment and reality hits and stuff like that. And even with my Zeta, I still, even though I was like, nope, I'm not even thinking of winning, it still crept in. So we're all human. Yeah.
Yeah, we are. I think we've covered a fair bit here tonight. We did look at the Stein. We love the Steins. Yeah.
But even though I'm like doing the mega custom builds and stuff, I'm still a snapper at heart. I barely paint any of my kits. I snap them together. I'm working on like I got the tall geese, but it's like the nice finish one, the limited kit. So I'm just snapping that together, and just like I did this the other day, and like this, I just feel like this, and the knee splits in like 3 places, and it's like the old days. I'm like, oh, look at that knee split, everybody, look at the knee split. It's so much fun.
3 or 4 years ago, you would have had to have scribed and cut away half the plastic to get that kind of result. Yeah.
So I still maybe snap 30 or 40 kits a year and customize one. So I'm still in it for the same reason I was, which is the fun of putting it together. Yeah,
it is fun, isn't it? Like I've still got into this habit of I've got like a couple of kits at the moment, like a IBO Sheeton and a few other HGs, and they're cut out into small little plastic containers which fit back in the box, and they're ready to go. And I've sanded them and I've cut them and I haven't snapped them up, and I know they're like a snack. I can just grab that. Yeah, I can come on a Friday afternoon and just go, there's 45 minutes, because that thing will just snap together, like it'll snap itself together. And and I've started doing this, just leaving these kits like cut and ready to go. And
man!
Next thing, 45 minutes later, you got the little robot dude standing.
That's it. You do the thing where like you put the leg together, arm together, torso, and you leave it all separate, and then you assemble it all together at the end.
No, I tend to build from the feet up. I like to. It doesn't matter where the instructions go. I like to see it sort of grow, and then it sort of goes up into also, and then head, and then the arms.
Because like that's how I normally build. Is like legs to waist and stuff like that, and I have like the legs and the waist standing there, then the torso. But then I think I read somewhere some guy goes, man, I like leaving it for one big epic moment at the end. So now I do that. I'm like, nope. Keep the legs here, keep the arms here, and then at the end I put it together, and it's just the explosion of reality of seeing it done, and it's really fun. Yeah.
I have this thing where the legs are into the torso, and I'm already posing it, you know, like and the feet are out, and I was like, it's just this weird looking little torso with legs, but like, look how tough those legs look. It's so good.
Nobody can push it over. Look at that A stance it's got.
Yeah, it's such a low center of gravity.
Yeah. Do you do like when you have a master grade? Do you have you ever built the whole inner frame and then just left that on display for a few days?
Yeah, I did that with something in there. Yeah, I did do that. I think the Gelgoog was pretty rad. I got the
yes,
yeah, Shah's Gelgoog, and that's got an insane inner frame, like all around the flared sort of pants is like framed, just framed everywhere. That thing.
That's one of my things. Yeah, I'll have the inner frame on display for like a week or something, and then I'll do the armor. Yeah, I love it.
I did the my RG Mark II, even though it's teeny tiny, but I did that whole inner frame with just the lid on it, like your Strike was, and just hands. It's just so much machine there. It looks so good.
It's so good.
Right, Josh, look, I think we've been going for a bit over an hour now. I thank you so much for sharing your time with us, and it's giving a little more behind the Josh. There's so much to look forward to in Gundam. I think that's what I always remember. Like Gunpla, there's always that little bit more, and Bandai's always putting more and more out for us. And it's when we sort of meet guys like yourself and all the other fellas we've spoken to that kind of just take things that little bit further. And look, for me, like I said before, I'm really starting to find that I'm not lazy, but I'm enjoying just watching what other people are building.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm a big movie fan, but I don't tend to be a director.
Yeah,
I can sit back and enjoy it when I see good quality whips come out, and I see people like I've been in about 9-12 months, and even on Gunpla Network I can see guys starting to grow and see their skills changing, and you just enjoy watching people. Just it's art. It's as artistic as I'll ever get, and I enjoy it. So, mate,
I think that's what I like about it is it allows you to be as artistic as you want. Yeah. And you can feel artistic if you just build it together, panel line, and add a bit of paint or something like that. You're like, I did this because I've been doing art for my whole life, so I like kind of do my own art. But for people who don't do that or don't have that sensibility, I think it's fantastic. Yeah,
definitely. So, definitely. I try to get my 7-year-old daughter to build a few bears with me, but we build a lot more Lego together. It's that same feeling.
Lego.
I get that micromanager thing, but what happens is like my wife's friend, she's like sort of like almost like an auntie, I guess, and she gives those the ones with the big camper van and stuff like that. And Mackenzie will sit down and we'll start, and I'll give her the pieces, and halfway through, and she sort of gives me that look, like, "Did you want to finish this?" I'm like, "Leave me with the Lego." And then and I snap it up, and she's like, "You're really quick." I'm like, "Yeah." But it's the same feeling. It is exactly the same feeling of having a bag of parts and some instructions and following the instructions and just going, now it's a thing.
Yeah, I don't know what it's released in, if it's like dopamine or something, but there's something with it. Because I just got this Lego Technic yacht catamaran thing, and I built it with my girlfriend, and we're just at this wine bar having wine. And I'm like, man, look at this! This turns into now we can turn the wheel. And then like the chef and the waiter are coming over. They're like, man, what do you? And the guy's like, man, I forgot about Lego. I haven't built since I was a kid. I'm like, you need to get Lego, dude. Lego is rad. It's just it's play. It's imagination. It's
All right, buddy. Thanks so much for your time.
You're welcome.
You and I'll be in touch.
Yes.
And what are you going to work on? What are you just snapping up, or are you making plans for?
Snapping up the tall Goosey, working on him. So that's all I have planned for now. And then I'm on to let me get my camera ready. On to second. Oh, I just dropped the table. Second house. And I don't know if people can hear, but it's teeny tiny and like this little water thing and these little tables and chairs and stuff.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah. So what I've got for that one is I've got myself some water stuff, like where you pour it in and you can make rivers and lakes and stuff like that. So I'm going to put some grass on this one and make a little creek going down there. And I might put some little fishies and stuff, a little bridge. So that's what I'm working on for.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's it. No big plans for any big custom Gundam right now. Just doing whatever I feel like. Yeah.
Must feel nice.
It does feel nice. Yeah, it does really nice.
All right. All right. Thanks again. We'll be in touch.
Yep.
Thanks.
See you later.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. Bye.